in this Wild and Out show, the black show, I know that the Nick Cannon guy was under attack for some so-called, well, not so-called, I guess, but making anti-Semitic remark on a podcast once. And how did they accept you, being a Jew? How did they let you in? Was it based on affirmative action or what?
Well, I went to the auditions, and a lot of people ask me this question. And there's also another Israeli there on the show when we auditioned, or MASH, and we started speaking like Hebrew on set. It was fun. So we're like, wow, we got a secret thing going on. Everyone knows we're talking about them. So it became,
That's right.
and, you got to mess with whatever. It's an audition. TV auditions is like a different breed. And the thing is, I beat everybody when it came to rapping. I beat everybody, and I think that's it. Like comes to rapping and comes to battling, I'm able to beat other people, and I think that's what they want. Obviously, yeah, it does look cool if they could put me up against the other people that are the stars of the show. And it's really cool to be a Jewish guy in a black television show. I mean, that's a big honor, at least within my own community. And it's honestly, there's really good people on the show. I mean, I think you've interviewed some of the people on the show, and there's some really strong people that are on it. So, I mean, like, it's really helped me in my confidence and just to be on the show and win, win and be funny. And if I lose, and also be funny, because that's how you win with the show,
Yeah. Did you ever believe that Nick Cannon was anti-Semitic?
Well, I mean, the things that people said at that time were, but I thought when people go on podcasts and they sort of go on rants, and definitely the joke is, I guess, at any point, if you're on a podcast for longer than 50 minutes, I would say some messed up things about Jewish people too, because you're on a podcast for 50 minutes. I think that's the cutoff date, So I thought to myself, I was really bummed out about it, but then I realized that he did a lot of work and learning, and I think learning is obviously the most you could do, especially if someone's, because the problem is with hate speech and things of that nature is that everyone thinks they're right according to what they have learned.
Yeah.
Spoke about forgiveness. So I think forgiveness is like the number one thing. Like, I don't want to hold resentments against anybody. And here I have an opportunity to show some good spirit on the show and do great and entertain something that he's built, and take that away. He's really created the most successful black television show that's still running, as far as like moguls. I mean, it's 20 seasons deep.
And so now you don't believe that he was and is anti-Semitic?
No, he's not.
He's not.
In fact, he works with a lot of Jewish people, and there's actually a good amount of Jewish people on the show, which is really nice. But it doesn't mean that people can't learn more, because anti-Semitism's and also racism, I think they're growing things, and they look different in certain years. So certain things that happen in the 2000s are different in the 2010s, and right now, where we're at right now, this is an anti-Semitism that you haven't really seen, and not that many people are familiar with it because they've never seen a war happen in the Middle East, and that's completely different than what happened with Nick at the time.
Amazing. And so I saw a video where you called out Kanye West for his quote-unquote anti-Semitism. And do you still believe that Kanye West is anti-Semitic?
Yeah. I mean, I've known people that have worked with him, and people said he harbored those views for a really long time, and it was only a matter of time. And that was from numerous sources. But the sad thing to me is, because I really respect his genius, but you see, anti-Semitism and just bigotry and hatred are diseases. So they sort of grow like a cancer. So last year we had this thing, and you thought everyone was overreacting. And at a certain point, everyone says, wow, he's overreacting. But just years before that, the same sort of vitriol was the reason why there were some rabbis killed in Jersey City. And after that, there were 25,000 people that marched across for peace and unity. Ironically, the community that had people that they lost, they didn't even show up. the extremely religious community, with the ones that get attacked that look very Jewish, with the, as you said, the Jewish hat, or a yarmulke or a black hat, or a strimal that you see, the guys with the fur hats. You ever see the
Right.
strimal
Yeah.
during the, yeah. So because they were just praying, they're just, they don't find like to go on a march as something, as something that's beneficial to them. So that grows from 2019, 2020 to 2021 with something in the Middle East, and now 2023. All those people kind of, it's intermeshed, and that's sort of what happens with cancer, right? It grows in one part of the body, and then it travels all around through the heart until it just swallows you up.
And so, are you able to forgive Kanye for his remarks in the same manner that you have forgiven Nick Cannon?
I'm able to forgive everybody provided the context of how things move forward,
Right,
Like, I
because
think,
Kanye is in music, he's an entertainer like Nick is, and you said that you have a mush of all kind of stuff in entertainment.
right. It's
So
a
you're
great
able to
question.
let it go with Kanye as well?
It's a great question. I think for myself right now, I had this discussion where the world is right now with the war um, in Israel, and it was, sometimes you ever meet those people who say, "Man, I wish I had the problems I had yesterday," and that's sort of where we're at.
Yeah, I've heard that before.
Yeah, it's like you're like, wow, remember then? It's like more money, more money, more problems. The Biggie Small song, and you know, the where we're at now, we almost wish we had it. But I truly believe that a lot of it is all interconnected when it comes to the dismissal of what Jews say. So, for instance, while people are speaking up about what has happened, no one listens, and then they try to come and say, "Hey, we need proof." And now, if you look in the past couple of years, how it's grown, you're going to see a lot more anti-Semitism across the U.S. and the world now due to the war. Um, but it all starts with what people say and put out into the world. It just doesn't happen like that. People are trained, and it's their ideas that are in heads that
And so
recycle
you
and go
you
over.
are able to forgive Kanye and rap and sing with him if it came about?
Yeah, if it came about, I'm sure I would be able to, provided that he would do the same exact work that Nick did. But Kanye does feels he's above in some sense, because I feel that Kanye is financially way more successful, to be honest.
Uh,
So
what?
so puts
Uh,
himself in a different position, and I think Kanye just went quiet. But Kanye is a different sort of mogul than Nick, you know.
Amazing. Um, do
But shout
you?
out to Nick, because he's given me the greatest of opportunities to really, represent who I am and be myself. He shouted me out on the Mike Tyson podcast. Isn't that crazy?
Amazing. You
Amazing.
are. You said that you had some addictions earlier. Like, are you still? Are you over all that?
I've been sober for 19 years. Yep. No drugs, no alcohol, no
Nice.
smoking since 2007, no cigarettes.
And I
Um,
want to ask. Then I want to get into the war thing. And so much I want to ask you. Ask.
okay, good.
How do you feel about the anti-whitenism?
The anti-white,
Whitenism.
where is that? Is that a term that I don't know of? I've never heard that until right now.
You know how everybody blamed the white man for everything.
I think you're speaking about
All
liberals.
races blame white people. They call them white supremacy. They blame white people if they fall down in a toilet somewhere. How do you?
I think you're speaking about liberals, right?
Well, everybody really.
Back on a conservative person.
There are
Or
conservative blacks and whites, liberal. I know liberal whites do, that think that white racism exists when it really doesn't. How do you feel about the attack upon white people, and especially white Christian men, but not only? How do you feel about anti-whitenism, tism?
I'll tell you how I feel about racism. I feel that there are just regular, like I do shows, a lot of shows in Utah, and they're just, and I'm a Jewish rapper there, right? So it's kind of like, I'm Kosha Dillz, I'm going to do a show, and there's just white people that are just like Tom Davidson. Let's say that's his name. Let's just make this guy up.
Right.
And Tom Davidson drives a pickup truck. He goes hunting. He goes fishing. He goes all these things that some people would create as the guy that holds a picture with the fish. He's like a white guy. And he's sort of in like modern day time in like music or culture. He's like the last person. He'll be the first person to get judged, even though he might be the best person. He could also be a bad person. But if he is a bad person, then this guy's going to get crucified just because he fits the mold of like, they're going to put him in the mold of like white supremacy, etc.
Right.
I don't think there's, I don't, I think we're getting to a point now where there's not as much, but I do know that fear mongering, I try to lead with empathy to everybody. And even if people grew up different than me, I'm sometimes the first Jewish person people have known. I'm definitely the first Jewish rapper people have known in many cases that's also on a TV show that they know.
Right.
And everybody knows Wild 'N Out. So for me, I hold a really interesting place. And I've met people that are fans of a show that watch Black culture and digest hip hop music that are still saying racist stuff subconsciously because that's how they are raised, but they were taught it was okay. And that's the problem. We live in a world where everyone thinks they're right. Everyone thinks the way they grew up was proper. And me, as somebody who had a lot of life experience, I have to lead with a little bit of, okay, this guy just doesn't know. Not everybody knows. So
So
I
are
hope that,
you against anti-white sentiments?
I know I gave you a complex answer not to that question.
Are you against
I'm
anti-white
against anyone
Semitic?
that's anti anyone,
I'm
and
sorry?
especially, but most of those people that are anti everything include being anti-Jewish and anti-Israel, and right now that's sort of what I'm focused on.
Right.
Like
I'm
anyone
black
who's
as I'm
anti,
slow, so I missed the answer. Are you against anti-white Semitic?
that doesn't make any sense.
What do you mean?
Anti-white Semitic. I see how you flip that. That is a crazy tongue twister. Anti-Semitic is anti-Jewish, and then anti-white. Um, I'm against people that are anti. And currently, what I'm leading with is that I'm a very central person, and there are really annoying people on the right and very currently very distraught people on the left that lead with anti-white man stuff and anti everything and anti-Israel and
So
and
are you
that's
saying
the
that
Jew.
are
The
you
Jew.
saying
Let me just say this before. As a Jewish man, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. So somehow you are hated by everybody, and that's what I always seem to deal with. So I never thought about the answer.
and so now that I've asked the question, are you against anti-Semitic, anti-white Semitism?
Nah, I can't answer that question because it's a
Why
tongue
not?
twister, and I feel like I'm doing it. I really don't get it.
Oh, you know how
I'm
they treat
against anti-Semitism. I'm against racist, and I do not appreciate people that come from a culture of the white man did it. I think that's sometimes like I think we all need to take a look at ourselves,
yeah,
and that's what I focus on.
I believe that.